It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 406. Tonight I'm joined by Ashgar.
Hello.
Kodra.
Not acceptable.
Thalen.
Sure.
We're down several tonight. But hey, this is about the number we used to record with all the time, so that's fine. You know, several hundred episodes ago, but...
I was going to say, this was only a regular thing for was it even 20 episodes?
Yeah, we gained in numbers pretty quickly. Mostly just because it makes things easier for days like today when people are out. And it's not just like Kodra and I talking to each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I know what this topic is, but ChainChompBraden?
So yeah, congratulations to ChainChompBraden. You're free. They managed to clear Trials of Death, the level in Mario Maker 1 that they created 7 years ago.
That's some commitment.
Yeah.
Because I think you said something about, thousands of hours of time.
Oh, yes. Thousands of hours. They're streaming this on Twitch. And so, yeah, routine grinds of multiple hours a day trying to beat this thing. It's extremely impressive looking. And also, just truly a Herculean feat. And of both skill and dedication and perseverance.
I do not have this dedication or perseverance or skill for that matter.
Well, now that they've beaten it, they can upload it and other people can try it.
So the thing ends with, sorry, the servers have shut down. We can upload services are no longer offered. Because Mario Maker 1 servers shut down over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So now has to recreate it on Mario Maker 2 and upload it from there?
I don't think you can
A bunch of the mechanics, I'm relatively certain, do not work the same way.
Yeah, they don't work the same way. Granted, I'm sure they have played some Mario Maker 2, but that's a lot of muscle memory with the specific mechanics of Mario Maker 1.
Presumably, in theory, there's a way that they could make the level available for people with Mario World Engine or whatever it is. I don't even know how all that stuff works. That it's a thing.
Do you mean Mario World like the SNES one?
The thing that people use to do crazy mod stuff of Mario Maker levels on the PC.
Kaizo Mario is Super Mario World ROM hacks, and Super Mario World physics are Mario Maker 1 and Mario Maker 2 are different, but they are not night and day different like Mario World and Maker 1 and Maker 2 are. Those are completely different games for the most part. Down to there's a bunch of enemies that behave differently. In Mario Maker, all of the little buzzsaws you can't spin jump off of, but you definitely can in Mario World. You can basically spin jump off of anything in Mario World.
Okay, so Super Mario Maker World Engine is not Super Mario Maker.
Yeah, well, Super Mario World, the Kaizo ROM hacks you see are mostly made with a program called Lunar Magic, which allows you to make your own ROM hacks in Super Mario with the Super Mario World engine and tile set. And then also, if you want to, you can bake in your own assembly.
I just know that there is a guy that my son used to be obsessed with his YouTube channel that played lots and lots of Super Mario Maker levels, and a lot of them were made with something called Super Mario Maker World Engine.
I'm thinking about this, and I'm wondering if that just means they're using the Super Mario World tile set in Super Mario Maker.
No, because it looks like it's like Mario Maker, but with more, but they can do more absurd stuff with it.
Then that must be Lunar Magic. They might just be calling it.
It appears to be its own program.
Super Mario Maker World. I do not know what this is. Fascinating.
I'm amazed that there is a thing about Mario Maker that I know of that you don't. I don't know how this happened.
Me as well. I did not know anything about this.
It is, yeah. So it is a thing that is supposed to make Mario Maker levels on PC. Okay, interesting. But yeah, possibly no one would play this level. Like Braden is not bad at the game, and it took him 7 years to beat this. Like this was the Sisyphean rock that he finally pushed up the hill.
Also, I think World Engine may have gotten C&D because it appears to be vanishing and or going away.
I mean, that's entirely possible. This is Nintendo we're talking about.
Yeah, like, I'm trying to think, and I can't think of very many things that I've ever put more than a half dozen attempts in, let alone thousands of hours of attempts in. So,
I play Celeste, so I definitely understand the mentality here. Like, I am definitely dipping my toes in. Like, this is probably a much longer topic, but like, there's definitely the concept of playing a game to like acquire mastery. And there was a really fun video that by Pat Gills from Polygon about how to get into fighting games, which sort of sounds to me like all of the various things that, while I am not into fighting games yet, the like, you need to find something if you want to like hone a skill in video games, you need to really love the thing you are honing your skill on. And eventually that passion and love for Celeste is what sort of allowed me to get over a lot of the humps and difficulty of that game and learning how to do some of the more tricky moves. And I'm still on the path of learning there, but it's definitely like when I listen to him talk about how he has journeyed into being like competitive in fighting games, that sounds similar to me in getting into the more challenging platformer communities.
Yeah, I respect it. I just don't have that in me, I don't think.
It's definitely like once it's hooked into you, it's definitely fun. And like so now we're all set. Like everyone in the Mario community is super excited and celebrating Braden this week because they did it. They finally did it.
So guess what, folks? That thing that none of us really understood is going away.
Oh, is it?
Stadia is being canceled. It goes away in January of 2023.
I'm shocked.
What? Google's killing a thing? What?
And like,
inconceivable.
That's been part of the discussion that's happened after this announcement is like a not insignificant amount of why people didn't really dive in with both feet is the over 200 product long list.
Yeah, no, I've been burned by Google too many times.
Of things that Google has just randomly killed. Yeah, no, yeah. This is a thing.
I'm not going to make any like monetary outlay or investiture of time into anything they create at this point. Well, because my assumption is they will kill it within a couple of years.
Like it lasted 4 years. Average. It lasted 3 years, and I think the problem is it never really coalesced into a product offering that made any sense. Because like there were basically two ways to use Google Stadia. There was the Pro subscription, which gave you access to some games. But at launch, that game list looked like a Humble Bundle offering from like 4 years before. It was not really cutting edge games. Yeah. And then you could just buy games outright, but like often for a markup over what you would find them on Steam. And like good on Google for refunding everyone's money, but that also tells me that
they didn't have to refund that much money.
Exactly. They didn't have to refund too much money if that was an easy decision for them. But like there were a bunch of aspects of this thing that really killed it out of the gate. So the game that they gave everybody for free was Destiny 2. But for the first 2.5 years of the service, if you played Destiny 2 on Stadia, you were in an isolated environment with only other Stadia players. So like
other Stadia players were there.
I'm sure there were
lots. Not enough. Like I poked my head in there and tried to do what is it? What's the name of
Strike?
No, Sorrow's Harbor or whatever on the moon that has
I have no idea.
it's the place where there's like events going on all the time, and I can't remember the name of it, but like I tried to do that. I was the only player there, and this is right after the expansion that gave us the moon had released. Strike queues took forever. I tried one of those as well. Like I finally just gave up. So there weren't people playing on it, but like to me, the niche that would have worked for Stadia is like for someone who used to play games, but like has fallen out of the cycle of playing games and doesn't have upgraded hardware, maybe has a Xbox 360 gathering dust in the closet, now suddenly has reached a point in their life where they have a little bit of free time and
somebody who'd like to be able to play games, but the modern consoles are all unavailable most of the time.
Right. So like that would have been a great niche for this. Like if you could pop in and play the latest Call of Duty with your friends off of a Chromebook. Because like you could stream Stadia off of a pretty crappy device.
Honestly, the tweet you shared yesterday kind of summed up my thoughts on the thing.
Which one?
To be fair, Google Stadia faced terrible odds in the past 3 years.
Oh, yes.
Having to deal with a global pandemic forcing people to turn to online entertainment and graphic cards and console shortages, creating high demand for alternatives. If only they hit the market at a better time.
Yeah, like the deck was stacked in their favor, and they still couldn't pull it out. And I think what the biggest
no one
nail
wanted it. No one who might have wanted it trusted them.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and like another big nail in the coffin is the fact that like shortly after they launched, GeForce Now, xCloud, and PlayStation Now has been there forever, and it's
because PlayStation Now is the oldest of these services.
Yeah, like it was originally like some other service, and I can't remember the name of it.
I don't remember what they called it, but it lets you play PS3 games on your PS4 via streaming.
Well, no, before Sony bought them, there was another service, OnLive. Yeah, there you go.
I forgot they bought OnLive to have them assist with that.
Yep. So like, but xCloud and GeForce Now are both very compelling offerings. Like xCloud has a lot of games on it, and you can just stream them, and it's part of your Game Pass subscription. So like, it's just freebie stuff for you if you've already got a Game Pass subscription. And then GeForce Now allows you to pick up games that you already own on, Steam or, Epic Game Store or Uplay and just play them on a cloud server. So like there's benefit there that if you just want to play with cloud streaming, like those are two options that you can bring a library with you. It just never made any sense to like buy a game on Stadia as a storefront.
Yeah. Well, and I guess we should actually be thankful that Stadia didn't actually become hugely successful and cause all of their competitors to fold, and then Google kills it.
Right, because that could have happened in another world. Like, I feel
cough, reader, cough.
I'm still bitter.
Like the old reader works and is pretty good, but also they really need you to subscribe so they can pay for their servers.
Yeah, and I'm like Feedly's fine, but
none of them.
There were not other good RSS readers because there was one extremely good one.
It was so good. Like I worry when they kill FeedBurner.
Yeah,
because so many people still use FeedBurner. But yeah, I mean, like it's just. I don't think this is necessarily a strike against cloud gaming as a concept, but I absolutely think this is a strike against a really bad product offering from an unreliable company.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, to be fair, I don't think Amazon Luna is very good offering either. And I fully expect
that's looking pretty similar, right? Like buy our box and also buy our games.
Right, exactly. Or buy a cable subscription like model where you like pay a fee for like all of Ubisoft's games or all of EA's games or it's a weird model.
That model is reasonable that model can be reasonable. It's basically what xCloud is. But unlike xCloud, you don't also get local access to those games if you have the hardware to run them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like xCloud Game Pass, since xCloud is just a free part of it, Game Pass.
Yes.
Game Pass as a service is really good. Like there's a large rotation of games that go through Game Pass. You get them day one. You can play them on a PC, you can play them on an Xbox, or you can play them on a cloud-connected device.
I didn't realize that this was, when you said cable, like, I didn't realize how far back we were talking here.
No, the packages, cable packages.
Yes. Okay, this is dumb and makes no sense.
Yeah, Amazon's is just horrible. Like, it's
wow.
Pay a subscription for access to the popular games, or pay a subscription for access to the retro games, and pay a subscription for access to the family games,
like
or the Ubisoft games, or the Jackbox games.
So every time they talk about regulating the internet, that image pops up of like cable TV promotions with like, get the YouTube tier and whatever. Like, there's an image that's been floating around for a decade, but like, that's literally the Amazon Luna model. It's just
how much is Game Pass Ultimate a month? Like, how much is it really? Like, if you're not getting discounts on it, it's $15. Just the Ubisoft games from Luna is more than Game Pass costs.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, this could have used some. I don't know how long for this world is this.
I think Stadia and Luna suffer from the exact same problem. Is they were designed by business types that have no understanding of how games and game playing works.
It took a long time for Game Pass to get good. Like, they had this thing that they were trying to sell for a long time, and then eventually it became Game Pass, and eventually it became what it is now.
Right, like, but from the time it's been Game Pass, it's been good. When it was games with gold, premium, or whatever, it was horrible. Like, it made PlayStation Plus look good, which admittedly, PlayStation Plus was good for the first year or so, and then it got significantly worse.
PlayStation Plus is okay, but yeah, it's not great.
It's real hit and miss.
I actually remember when Games with Gold turned around, because someone we know was working at Microsoft during that time.
Yep. Well, someone else we know is working at Microsoft right now, too. Doing promotion for Game Pass.
Fair enough.
But like, I think the thing that I like the most about Game Pass in general is there's a wide variety of titles available. So like, if you just want to go play a cozy game, there's one of those on there. Like, there's a whole bunch of those on there. If you want a shooter, there's a shooter on there. Like, there's a good fighting game on there. Like, multiple good fighting games on there. So like, there's a large variety of like what's available. And and the problem is like, so Stadia at the end, by the time it reached this point, only has 57 games you can play with a subscription. And like, to make it worse, they apparently didn't tell any of their partners about this, because there's all this information coming out about game studios that have spent lots of time and money getting a game ready to launch on Stadia that mostly just doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to gloat, and I feel bad for everybody that is going to ultimately lose their job over Stadia, but like, I never understood how this was going to work, but the tech was good. So hopefully maybe someone will buy the tech. I don't know. So Mario and Rabbids, Donkey Kong Adventure.
That was the DLC for the first. That was the DLC for the first game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was the DLC for the first game, which we picked up and have now played through. It's fun. It's more Mario and Rabbids, although the movement mechanics gotten shaken up a little bit because Donkey Kong's here. Donkey Kong's too big. He can't jump off of the tiny rabbits. So instead, he picks them up and throws them at people. He can throw anything. That sounds
hilarious, actually.
He throws anything, actually. He can throw rabbits. He can throw enemy rabbits. He can pick up hunks of terrain and throw them. It's really fun. It's also really useful because... So, unlike the first game, this is a much smaller adventure. You only have 3 characters. It's Rabid Peach, Donkey Kong, and Rabid Cranky. And Rabid Cranky, Rabid Cranky's jump is a like giant explosion of damage underneath him when he lands, and if Donkey Kong throws him, he also does that. So a lot of my strategy correlated to Donkey Kong grabs Rabid and runs as far across the map as possible and then hurtles him at a bunch of enemies. These games play so much more differently and more chaotically than most like tactics RPGs I've played. Like it's way more focused on movement. I find myself like caring way more about investing points into my character's move speeds, mostly because characters can slide tackle for damage, and increasing their move speed also increases the threat range of that. But like, it's a really rock solid tactics game, and especially like the ability to always know what's going to happen really helps. Like, you're very rarely actually like playing any percentages.
I mean, I think I said last time, your options are 100%, 0%, and 0%.
Yeah, but if you're taking a 50% shot, which is the second 0%, like you probably could have positioned yourself a little bit better at some point to avoid having to take that.
Yes. I think early in the game you have to take some of those, but as you sort of get better movement, that becomes less true.
Man, once you really get a grip on what you're able to do with the team jump, you're just able to your ability to get across a map is hilarious. The final battle actually like really tried to stress test how good my movement is by putting three squares in three corners of the map that I had to sit a character on, and then once I did that, I had to get a character back to the fourth corner of the map. It was
one turn?
Not in one turn, over a couple of turns, but you're dealing with the fact that you've got a boss attacking you constantly that cannot take damage. So you're kind of on a clock there. But it is also cool because like you really feel it when your characters get isolated from each other, because they are much more powerful like within squad range of each other. I don't know. It really feels like it does the squad shooter thing like in some ways better than XCOM. And I'm really excited for Mario Rabbids too.
I would think just the more forgiving nature that you've described is what makes it more enjoyable than XCOM.
I mean, it's both more forgiving, but also like enemies get 100% shots on you as well. And the game does have the ability to push it to 11 if it wants to.
I was going to say, I saw that challenge stage.
Yeah. I finally beat all of the challenges in the base game as well. One of which is 2 of every mini boss, except for the final 4 mini bosses, of which there's only 1 of them. So
they give you a turn limit, but from what I saw, the turn limit was completely irrelevant.
The turn limit was completely irrelevant. Like, there is way too much firepower in there. Like, you need to be bringing enough fire. You cannot possibly act defensive enough. Every single mini boss has like room crossing attacks that will just make it so that you need to be chomping down like 3 or 4 mini bosses a turn by that point. But your characters are also potentially broken, like if you've built them certain ways, and you figure out the broken combinations that can do that much damage. Like, I have Luigi, who is a sniper, who has an Overwatch that gets 3 shots, and that's enough. 3 shots from a sniper rifle is enough to take down most mini bosses. But yeah, it's a good game. I'm looking forward to it. The one thing I will say, the humor, not sure it's for me. I think Rabid humor is a little bit too juvenile for me at this point.
I mean, they're screaming rabbits.
They are. There's a lot of suggestive adult humor in there, is what I'll say. And the good news is, I don't think my son caught any of it, because he loves these games.
I guess soon you'll be able to introduce him to, this minor character from back in the early days of the Rabbids games. This dude called Rayman.
What? Who?
Yeah, that
was a great game. Just saying, like,
that whole situation cracks me up. That the Rabbids have now become more popular.
Like, I think this is going to be the first time in a decade that Rayman has actually appeared in a game.
Wait, is Rayman going to be in
one of the DLCs
for the Mario Rabbids game?
Yeah. There's one of the DLC is going to like star Rayman as one of the playable characters.
Nice. Yeah, I'm guessing my son will have no idea who this is.
I mean, why would he?
If you want, the Rayman Legends is a great game that exists, and maybe you could play it. It's on Switch.
Okay.
The first Rayman and Rabbids game, however, not a good game. You shouldn't play it. It is a not great mini game collection.
I was going to say, wasn't it like bad Mario Party?
Yes, it was bad Mario Party.
So are the Rabbids minions before there were minions?
Yeah,
Kind of.
I think they predate Minions.
I mean,
yeah, they definitely predate.
definitely
Minions.
predate. Yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, like they were bad guy characters originally.
Mostly in Raven Rabbids. I note that even the sequel to this game does not have Rayman on the cover.
No, he's a DLC character.
No. Rayman Rabbids 2, despite having him in the title, does not have him on the cover.
Yeah, they didn't drop his name from the title, but they just
Is this supposed to be? I am curious because I don't really know. Is this supposed to be Rabid Bowser in the Sparks of Hope? That must be who it is. The
Probably.
black.
Probably.
Interesting. But yes, this was the. I feel like this expansion was also the DLC was also the game creators discovering that hey, Rabid Peach is our most popular character. Let's feature her.
Bowser being a playable character in weird Mario spin-offs is sort of a consistent thing, so it's a little funny he wasn't in this one, honestly.
I mean, Bowser, he was in this one. He was not a playable character.
Right. I mean, yes, that's what I mean. Ever since Super Mario RPG, he's been kind of a weird playable character in a variety of contexts.
He regularly ends up being an ally of Mario.
It's
Like,
true.
He also
Something
regularly
worse.
ends up being the final boss, even when he is an ally.
That too.
The main antagonist of the game was Bowser Jr., which
Yes.
I feel like they are more comfortable having Bowser Jr. be the main antagonist of a lot of these games now. I guess they want to have an antagonist who's allowed to talk. And it feels like for some reason
Bowser can talk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he talks
but-
all the time.
I guess, but in a lot of games, they just don't have him talk.
Bowser seems to very rarely talk in like mainline Mario games, which is weird.
Mm-hmm.
But he talks all the time in almost all the spin-offs.
Sure. I wonder if it is definitely weird because like Bowser's Fury also like you in a lot of these games you get Bowser Jr. like being the voice of Bowser, where Bowser just like is big and menacing.
Like, does Bowser talk at all in Galaxy? Like, he shows up to
No.
be menacing, but I don't remember if he says anything ever.
Oh, Bowser has a lot to say. Wait, does Bowser
Bowser
definitely
Jr. has a lot to say.
Bowser definitely talks in Odyssey though.
He does talk in Odyssey.
Because he's
Not
desperately
much.
trying to win Princess Peach, like in terrible, awful ways, culminating in the best scene ever. Mario, Bowser desperately vying for her affections. Peach like, actually, I'm gonna just walk away. You two suck.
I'm going to take a vacation. You guys can work that out however you want.
Go spend some time in New Donk City.
So I know we're getting spoilers for Brothers War. What other things are we getting spoilers for currently?
So we got spoilers for Brothers War starting this week. Last week was the end of spoiler season for Unfinity. Like we did not have 7 days between the end of Unfinity spoiler season and the start of Brothers War spoiler season.
They also just announced some Transformers Magic the Gathering cards.
They did announce Transformers Magic cards, and then like right before Unfinity, they released the deck list for the 40k commander decks.
Yeah.
Yep. Which, even if you're not getting the collector's versions, are still kind of expensive.
Not
And,
surprised.
I mean, I thought they were like what, $50 or $60 a
I think
deck.
they're 60, and there for a while they had
That's still
dropped
$20 more than MSRP for a
Yeah.
normal commander deck.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like, commanders are usually around 40, unless it's one of the cheaper sets that they've come out with that are like 20-ish.
They're I'm just gonna say the 40k decks might be a little pushed.
Yeah, I'd say so. There are some interesting cards in there.
There are some interesting. I would like 11/11 all with trample, and all my creatures get trample, and I'd only like to pay 6 mana for it. Yeah, there's some busted cards there. And then like right before 40k season, if like it doesn't feel like Dominaria United is that old.
No, and I don't feel that it got much attention.
But like we actually, so I feel like supply chain might have had some problems here. We had this issue where like my favorite set kind of got short shrift. Like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty did not feel very long before we were going right into New Capenna, and then we kind of felt maybe it was just because the draft wasn't that great, but it felt like New Capenna dragged on before we got to Dominaria again. I don't know. The magic keeps happening though.
Well, so like I don't know for how long. Because at least on the finance side of Magic, like a lot of these products have not been super well received lately.
Yes, but I could not care less.
Well, I understand, but like I have a feeling if no one is willing to buy them, they're gonna maybe back off on the collector's edition everything.
I don't think no one is willing to buy them.
That.
I think Booster Fun has been incredibly successful, and maybe not from like a finance perspective.
I mean, it's probably been successful for Wizards stores.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because, I mean, those people want what's in those for the most part, and they're not cheap.
Yeah. I mean, mostly the prices have been flat or falling slightly after release. And it seems like no one wanted Dominaria United. What is it? Kickstart? Is that the name of it? Jumpstart?
Jumpstart's a weird
Jumpstart was its
anyways.
own weird thing, though.
I don't think you're trying to make money on Jumpstart.
Well, and the problem with this Jumpstart is there's basically like, there are technically 2 color offerings for each color, but they're mostly the same deck minus 1 or 2 cards. So really you just have like a red deck and a blue deck and a green deck.
I will say I didn't even know these existed.
Yeah. Like, again, I'm going to go back to Jumpstart is not necessarily... Jumpstart is a different... Like, all of these products have purposes. Jumpstart is there to, like, try and give a product that new players can use to play the game.
Yeah, but I was reading somewhere where they're intending to do a Jumpstart for every set now on.
Good.
Sure.
That's a great idea.
I don't know if it is or though. Like the first Jumpstart was awesome because there were so many different combinations.
The first Jumpstart contained a bunch of reprints also.
Right, but there were a bunch of different themes.
Fun to play also.
Yeah, like it was really cool because there were a ton of different options. I don't know how many there were, like 30, 40 different mini decks.
20, I think, something like that.
Yeah, and then you could, in theory, you buy 2 packs, you can get vastly different decks.
Yep.
But this one is basically like there are 5 different packs in the entire box. So it is entirely likely that you may get 2 of the same pack if you're just doing the pull 2 packs to build a deck thing. So I don't know if you can really do single set Jumpstarts and make them feel good. I
mean, the test run for Jumpstart, as it were, was unsanctioned, which is only 5 decks. You still pick 2, but that's all you got. Between the 2 of you, you pick 2 each and run good to town with some really fun cards. And I think they don't necessarily have to. I mean, apparently there are 46 themes in Jumpstart 2022.
Yes.
I just don't know how. Doesn't really matter how different they are.
That is different than.
Oh, that's different than Dominaria United.
Yes.
Jumpstart.
Dominaria. Yeah. Dominaria United.
Maybe too many different products.
Yeah, like and they're coming out right next to each other. But the Dominaria United one is like literally like there's 5 different decks because it's only drawing from cards in Dominaria United.
They should sell them as a box like they did with unsanctioned.
Yeah. Yes, that would make sense. It doesn't really make sense as a
booster product.
Right. Pick up 2 boosters, play. Well,
okay, I'm with you now.
Yeah.
They're like super theme decks, basically.
I mean, I both don't disagree that this seems like a problem, but also like this seems like something that they need to fix for Jumpstart. I think Jumpstart is also not necessarily the focus of most Magic, but it's obviously something that they need to correct.
And like the first Jumpstart did a really good job of providing some reprint value that people actually cared about, in addition to being just a fun pickup.
I'm not sure that's necessary.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of in the perspective of I don't actually
want the people who want old cards to be buying this.
Yeah, I don't want people chasing Jumpstart. I'd like it to be available for a reasonable price. That's what all of the chase features of boosters are for. Like the fact that they're putting worm coil engines back in the next set.
Wow, does that seem unnecessary?
I'm not surprised though.
With the
it's
old
a good
border.
Card. There's a lot of fan service, let's say, in Brothers War. It's kind of great, really.
It's pretty great.
Bunch of old frame cards.
Brothers War was the best of the novels.
An actual Urza that people will play. I mean, okay, they printed Urza in Modern Horizons, and he's great. I'm not going to say that Urza is not great, but an Urza Planeswalker is not going to be a thing that exists outside of Unstable.
Urza's getting the Omnath treatment.
Add a new color each time.
Yeah. We've got mono blue Urza, we've got blue white Urza, and now we have blue white black Urza. But yes, Urza's gonna be there, Mishra's gonna be there. They're gonna print old characters with a lot less embarrassing art.
Cough.
Cough, cough. And I don't know. We still don't really know the story of why this set is here. If it's just like a history lesson, or if I don't know, somebody's playing timeline shenanigans.
Isn't this year's core set? So it doesn't have to be the.
Oh, is that what it is?
It can just be a history lesson.
Okay. We've got a Mightstone and a Weakstone. Mightstone and Weakstone card combined together, and they aren't terrible, unlike the original Mightstone and Weakstone.
I mean, those were fine for the time in which they were printed.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, everything was terrible then.
Yeah, everything was awful.
It was an artifact that was adjusting like the power of attacking creatures.
Yes.
Yes, that was a thing somebody might want at that point.
Who was playing creatures?
Most people were playing creatures. You got to realize, like, the Power 9 people were non-existent. Like, they were tournament wipers. There was like one in a city.
Like, what else were you going to play? You were playing creatures.
Yeah, everybody's playing creatures. Like, it was mostly Warhammer with cards.
Yeah.
Moxen?
Those didn't exist. Are you kidding?
No.
Yeah, well, those existed for such a short period of time that, like, only the handful of people that managed to get one of those early decks, like anything prior to Revised was just unobtainium.
Mm-hmm,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I knew Magic existed, but I didn't get my hands on a deck in any form until Revised, because every time anybody would get some in, it would instantly sell out.
Yeah, like I came in just after Legends, like right before Darkness, or the Dark.
The Dark was the first set that I actually was there as it landed, other than Revised. And then I got in on some Legends because it was still around. You could still lay hands on it, but
yeah, there were still a few packs lying around that I did pick up some Legends packs, but the Dark was the first like expansion that I was playing when it came out.
Yeah, like I was there on the day when the comic shop got the box in.
But yeah, like most of the cards in anything like Fallen Empires and before are just bad by modern standards. A lot of them were bad even by the standards of the day, but by modern standards, they're real bad.
It's cool. We figured out how to print powerful creatures.
Well, and honestly, if you look at Ice Age and Fallen Empires and Homelands, it was a concerted effort to try and water down the power of Magic.
Yes. Fallen Empires was deliberately bad. And it...
Well, at that point, they knew they made mistakes with the Power 9, and all the stuff that's on the reserve list was too powerful to be played with multiple copies in your deck.
Yeah.
So, like
they were still trying to figure out what to do about Mr. Suitcase at that point. Like they didn't have a solution yet.
Well, like I can remember going to a tournament and having a bunch of fun competitive games until I got to the semifinals, and I was up against a dude with a Power 9 deck.
And he won.
That game was over in a couple turns. And then he moved to the next step and swept that person too. Because like there was only one person with that deck.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean like everyone else was like I was doing stupid shenanigans with what was the Elves of Deep Shadow was the black mana elf.
Yes.
And then there was one that was basically Aladdin but an elf that could steal artifacts. I don't remember the name of that one. It was from Dark.
Yeah.
It was really expensive, but like I was using it all day long to steal people's artifacts and use them. And nobody really had a contingency plan for that because nobody had an Aladdin. Like that wasn't a thing anyone had ever seen. And a semi-mechanical reprint of that. Oh my God. Yeah, it was just a different time. like I remember using Rod of Ruin, which is an arguably horrible card, but it could plink people with it.
I see that we also have bullshit like Bronze Tablet in this set.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot that this was still a thing that they were doing. This was before they decided anti was a bad idea.
Yeah.
I remember people with actually seriously playing with anti rules.
Yes.
I never did because I didn't want to lose cards.
Yes.
But I absolutely remember
people. It was in the rules.
But it was in the rules. Yep.
I remember people regularly playing games that way. And I'm like, it was hard enough for me to find these cards. I'm not going to give them to you because I lost. Goes back to what we were talking about last week, that like the game veered far from what the original intent that Garfield had.
Sadly, I just got a message and I'm going to have to disappear now. Bye, everyone. Have a good podcast.
See ya.
Good night, Kodra.
So we were talking about this briefly before the show with Trombone Champ.
Trombone Champ was not actually the reason I put this on the list, but it is still on topic.
It is technically a rhythm game.
Yeah.
It's a rhythm game that doesn't necessarily want to sound pretty, but it's a rhythm game.
But I started thinking about rhythm games because, well, for a variety of reasons. But one was that I was reminded like that some old Kickstarter stuff existed, so I went back and played a bit of Amplitude, which I actually hadn't played since it launched officially.
I should go back and play some more of that because yeah, it's been a while since I played it a little bit after it came out, and it was good.
Yeah, the campaign in the original Amplitude is 25 songs long, roughly.
Mm-hmm.
You only get 20 of them if you're playing on easy.
That sounds right. Yeah.
And you get a 26th if you're playing on the hardest difficulty, which is you don't want to play that song anyway. That song is pain. It's in Symbian Project. I mean, it was an alias for Kassan Crooker, one of many used in that game. I think Computer Controller, which is also used in this game, I think, for something. So yeah, it was Symbian Project, basically. This game has a campaign of 15 original songs, and I don't think that did the game any great service. These songs are kind of samey.
Yeah.
The entire rest of the soundtrack's pretty great, though. There's, of course, a Freeze Pop track, another Symbian Project track.
I mean, there has to be a Freeze Pop track.
Kassan Crooker hasn't been in Freeze Pop in like 12 years.
And yet.
Still.
You can't have one of these games without Freeze Pop. It's not allowed.
And he hasn't been Sony's audio director for even longer than that. But yeah, I mean, they are local favorites, and Harmonix is still in Boston.
But yeah, you're right. The song list for the new one was mostly like internal, and it's fine. But like,
I just think that if you play the other thing is you unlock all the songs by playing through them in the campaign. This one you kind of don't. You have to play quite a few songs before you unlock some of the others.
Yeah.
And I think that also does the game kind of a disservice. Because it has more tracks than Amplitude did. It's just that you don't have access to that many tracks when you're playing it even after beating the game once. That said, still fun to play. They made a very important mechanical change. That is when you automatically skip empty tracks when you press left and right. And that is incredible for keeping up your streak, especially if you're going from the far left to the far right or vice versa, or trying to get something in the middle that you might skip over if you just mash the button. Not a concern in this one. So I was really enjoying it. I also made a bit of an impulse purchase and have some metal dance pads headed my way.
Nice.
Because I've kind of always wanted some, and I have a house now. I can do that.
Yes, you can set up a permanent DDR area.
Don't have to worry about somebody downstairs getting mad.
Mhm.
Like, it's just not a thing. So yeah, that's on the way. And I was also looking at one of the things that inspired this was looking at some of the GDQ nonsense that went on this year. In January in HGDQ, which was still an online event, they were showcasing Not ITG step reading, sight reading.
Mhm.
And Not ITG is one of the several versions of internet or PC releases that is basically just Dance Dance Revolution. There's a weird, complicated history of forks and old versions and current versions and open source and closed. It's kind of nonsense. But one of the focuses of this particular release is the ability to do dumb things with arrows. So they have this whole mod community which makes charts that are difficult but not impossible to read. And they have like sight reading competitions where people who have never seen these before get in front of a dance pad and try to do them.
Cool.
And so GDQ in January was just a showcase of that nonsense. And that was nonsense. So I guess they figured they had to top it. So in summer, they did a doubles version, which is two people going around a pair of pads, each of which has their own arrows assigned to them. So you have to kind of do weird movements to not hit in your partner's way. And like, oh, this was very impressive. A thing I didn't know about until it showed up at GDQ was another Konami rhythm game called Sound Voltex, which is another arcade game. It's an arcade game that involves a hand controller of sorts with 6 buttons and 2 knobs, and you do various things with them. It is more visually impressive than Beatmania, and also, again, had a very impressive showcase at GDQ. So I've sort of had rhythm games on the brain for a while. Also, Trombone Champ is hilarious.
Please tell me you're also going to plan on trying to play games that aren't meant to be played with a dance pad.
I am not going to do that.
Oh, come on.
No. Absolutely not.
I want to see a clear of Hollow Knight with a dance pad.
I'm sure somebody can do it, but that's not going to be me.
Okay.
You also have to get a pretty fancy dance pad.
I mean, maybe we could sell Kodra on this idea. That seems like more of his thing, honestly, to play something frustratingly for a long time.
Rhythm was definitely the thing he was talking about, though. The sense of mastery.
Yep.
It's a big part.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes, I don't know how long it took before I finally cleared, what was that freaking song in Amplitude? The last bonus song. Robot Rockers.
Yes.
Robot Rockers is ridiculous.
Yeah, like Frequency and Amplitude are both games that I spent a long, long time ultimately reaching the point that I could actually finish every song in the game.
Yes. And like this one, it's clear that I haven't completely worn off because on what used to be standard, they currently call intermediate, I can clear everything basically.
Mm-hmm.
And there are some things I can clear on advanced, like that Freeze Pop song, because I already knew it before I even started playing it. It's complicated. And I think it's probably harder on advanced than it would be on the next difficulty up because they put breaks in the lines.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing with rhythm games is like once you've reached the point where you are like reliably able to handle a difficulty level, trying to play at a lower difficulty level is harder. Because you're trying to hit notes that aren't there.
Yes. That was a major problem for me when I was playing that song. I think this song was actually written for this game. I think it's not officially credited that way, but I think it was in this game before it was on the album that they released. But yeah, it's a thing that I have previously spent a lot of time with and will probably be spending a lot more time with in the near future. Also, yes, I own Trombone Champ, but I have not played it. For those of you who already know that I played the trombone in real life.
So, have either of you been following Torchlight Infinite at all?
I am aware it exists.
Yeah.
And I am aware that they seem to keep marketing it as this thing with incredible vil variation. And I have no idea what they actually mean by that.
So, I mean, the elevator pitch is it is some of the folks that did Torchlight 1 and Torchlight 2, which is not the case for Torchlight 3, which was ultimately Torchlight Frontiers. And they're building a mobile-first game that is a, Diablo-like Torchlight game. Problem with that is this is a bit of an aging topic because a couple weeks ago there was a PC test going on, and I had played some on the mobile device or like a phone, and it was fine. It felt pretty good, but I'm either I want to play it with a controller, which the phone didn't have controller support, or I want to play it on a PC, where in theory I can remap it to be the kind of game I want to play. But it is the straightest of mobile ports I've ever seen. There's no keybinds at all on the PC. So that was a very short-lived experience. I played around a little bit, but I didn't get terribly far into it, because I figured, okay, I'll return once they've added some modicum of key binding support or controller, one or the other. But apparently they've also recently started testing out monetization, and there's some at least somewhat heavy-handed gotcha in it. Not to the level of Diablo Immortal, but definitely the pets that run around with you give you a bunch of random stats that are seriously buffing your character. And
that was the case in Torchlight 1 and 2 as well.
Right, but they weren't gotcha at that point.
No, they weren't.
They weren't something
They
you
sure
spent
weren't.
money to get. Yeah, so that's caused a lot of frustration. And apparently they've walked some of it back, but not the pets. But definitely was enough to give the game a black eye in the minds of ARPG fans after just going through Diablo Immortal.
I was going to say, anything in that space is going to have to step real carefully. And I guess they didn't.
They did not. No, they did a bad. I mean, it's Perfect World, I think, still. So.
Oh, well, then whatever. That was to be expected then. They aren't listed as a publisher, but I have no idea what, if anything, what they were doing.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's published by Perfect World, but I don't know. It doesn't list it on the wiki either. But I think I remember seeing the Perfect World logo during the boot up sequence. But anyway, so what they've done now, and this is absolutely just buying credibility. They've hired David Brevik as a consultant on the game.
Well, because of course they did.
Yeah, I mean, why not, just buy yourself, the dude most associated with Diablo to help, straighten out your game. And I have no idea what his level of involvement is, but it when I heard it, it just seemed like a blatant attempt to buy credibility. So we'll see what ends up happening before the game actually launches. I figure it's going to have at least some heavy-handed gotcha in it. It's a mobile game.
Looks like this is a brand new Chinese publisher, as far as I can tell. They have a few development experience things.
XD Inc. is the developer and publisher of Torchlight Infinite, which is doing so in a partnership with Perfect World.
Yeah, there we go.
We'll see. I'm technically, I think, in the testing rotation, so hopefully it will improve over time, but I am not holding my breath. Another topic that's aged a bit is the second death of G4 TV.
Ooh.
I don't know, when I heard last November that G4 was coming back, I was confused. It did not make a lot of sense. And then I actually attempted to watch some of the content, and my memories of that channel did not live up to what came back.
I mean, I didn't even know they were coming back.
Same.
Well, what's weird about it, though, is supposedly they were originally going to be on cable television again, but no one seemed to actually have it on their packages, so who knows? So what ended up happening...
When G4 launched originally, this was pre-YouTube.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Everything that they did ultimately got replaced by YouTube. I mean, when it first launched, Slashdot was the internet homepage, and video was resigned to either flash animation or really blurry QuickTime movies on E-Bombs World. Like that was the internet back then. So like I remember I watched Tech TV long before it merged with G4. And I really liked the show The Screensavers because it was kind of, here's a rundown of anything you might have missed from Slashdot. And I remember that I used to like come in from work and put it on while I was sorting out dinner, and then often watch it while I was eating, and then go on with whatever I was doing that night. And then when it transitioned, I remember Attack of the Show was the thing that took the time slot of Screensavers. And again, like, it was still mostly a tech news show at that point. And I don't know at what point I tuned out and it became this very personality-driven skit-based thing. But like, that wasn't the Attack of the Show I remembered, but it absolutely was a thing that existed when the channel died in 2013. So that's the incarnation that came back, was the very sort of funny comedy skit thing with like loose interviews every so often, some vague talking about news. But, you know, in the modern age, I have things like Checkpoint to give me a short, bite-sized gaming news show that's actually humorous. So I don't know, like, I don't think there was an audience. And, you know, it basically, like, I guess last week, all of the talent for G4 was laid off, or most of the talent. So I think it's only a matter of time for this reincarnation to be over. Thalen, did you watch much G4?
No, I never did.
I think it's another one of those things that I remember differently than what it actually was. So like, I had some nostalgia going into this, but like, I never actually watched much of it last November. It was too long running.
No, I didn't watch any of the relaunch. And I barely remember the original because, like, I was in middle school when it's launched.
Yeah.
And I guess, like, its heyday was basically while I was in college. Or basically while I was in high school, rather.
2003-ish? 2004-ish? 2005-ish?
So, like, I just didn't care about this.
Yeah. I guess in last little bit of news, Blizzard seems to be really committed to the game of chicken that they're playing with the launch of Dragonflight Alpha, or Dragonflight, because they committed to a November 28th launch date this year.
Makes me wonder if November 31st or November 30th is the date they have to finalize the Microsoft thing.
I don't know. I really think, like, I don't know,
because they seem to be pushing everything out the door right
I don't
now.
know that anyone is actively talking about it, but like, this absolutely seems like a last minute money grab for Kotick, because the entire crew. They also implemented another thing where if you play through the Death Knight starter experience in Wrath of Lich King Classic, which I think just came out. I don't know. It's either out.
It launched very recently.
It's either out or it's just about to launch. But anyway,
it launched.
But if you play through the Death Knight experience, you get a mount for retail, which is a custom, unique version of one of the dragon flying mounts from Dragonflight. But that deal only lasts until Dragonflight launches. So they're also applying pressure to get people to resub and play through the Death Knight experience so that they can
resub now, get your money in.
Yep. So like, all of this combined feels like just a hard press for money. And it seems to be doing some damage, because so far the reviews in progress for Overwatch 2 have not been terribly glowing. So I guess we'll see what Microsoft is actually buying. I have a feeling by the time Microsoft gets a hold of it, it will not be worth anywhere near what it's being paid for.
I mean, that is a thing you can sue a company for. Generally, merger agreements say that you aren't supposed to torpedo your company during the merger.
Usually.
But I'm not a lawyer. And I'm sure... No, I was going to say... I can't say that with a straight face. I'm sure all these decisions were carefully considered, but I don't think that's true, actually.
No. I I don't know. I'm hoping Microsoft can turn it around. It feels weird for me to be thinking of Microsoft in a very positive light after years of being in the Microsoft silo and seeing the nonsense they do with licensing for corporate software, but I'm hoping they can sort this out. I think that's about all we have. Any other topics anybody has?
Not for me.
Nope.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
See ya.